Hi, this is a hips and hamstrings video, and we are going to introduce some very traditional hip openers today. We are starting in Ardha Supta Virasana. This is a very traditional hip opener, and we are using 6 blocks and a bolster to set this pose up. As you can see, I've got the 6 blocks, and I'm going to come and sit on the block with my left foot on the floor. I'm going to take my right knee down. As I come into the pose, you can lift the right knee, no big deal. Good. And then just bring your sacrum or the center of your buttocks to the block, and then slowly lay back and adjust accordingly. So this left foot is the driver, the director, and we gently take this right foot in and under as much as we can. And the first effort is to start to tuck this right sits bone in and under, and at the same time start to press through the left foot, working from the center of your buttocks. So there is a sense of working both sides together as one. That unity or union, that's the real yoga here. So let's start here, and let's take a slow, smooth inhale right up into the upper chest. Feel the crease of the armpit chest lift through that inhale. Allow that breath to explore along the collarbone area and widen that collarbone so it connects with the back of the shoulder blade. On your exhale, let's continue to sense lifting through the crease of the armpit chest as you start to relax your lower ribs down towards your hips. Again, slow, smooth inhale, lifting through the crease of the armpit chest. Feel the center of the chest lifting through that inhale, and continue that sense of lifting all the way through the exhale. Make that exhale the same length as the inhale. Again, slow, smooth inhale, back ribs in and up, center of the chest lifts, sides of the armpit chest lifting through that inhale. Follow all the way through that exhale. Continue that sense of lifting through the upper thoracic spine as you release the lower ribs to the hips, tucking the pelvis in and under. Again, slow, smooth breath. Allow the upper chest to lift in all 3 points of contact, the side body, the center, and the back body, lifting through both the inhale and the exhale. On your next exhale, start to feel that sense of letting go, that sense of complete releasing through that exhale. Good. So we're not staying here too long. Let's start to bring that right foot back to the floor and just move that bolster slightly, pressing through the feet. Let's lift the hips, elevating the pelvis, and pressing through all 4 corners of the feet. Let's start to tuck both sits bones in and under, drawing those sits bones towards the shins, lengthening the spine, releasing that lower back. Just a few breaths here, and then let's slowly release. And let's make our way up. We're going to do the second side here, so we're just going to shift the bolster over to the left, and keeping that right foot on the floor, let's take that left foot and just tuck that shin in and under. Good. So as you come down, you can just lift that left knee. Coming down onto the back body, you can adjust that left foot, and then start to press that right foot into the floor, tucking the left sits bone, the left side of the pelvis in and under, working from the center of the buttocks. Let's create that union, that sense of all things coming together as one, containing the pelvis, tucking the pelvis in and under, using both the right foot as well as the left sits bones, scooping in and under. Let's use the breath. So as you inhale again, feel that sense of lifting through the upper chest. And as you exhale, feel that sense of letting go. Let's start to connect with the body's natural tool of letting go of tension. So as you inhale, feel the upper chest lifting through the back body, through the center of the chest and the side body. On the exhale, follow all the way through that breath. Start to feel that breath come into the lower belly area. So we want to move the breath away from the neck and shoulders, lingering as long as you like on both sides. Typically, if one side is tighter, you might want to linger a little longer on that side, or maybe even repeat that weaker side twice. Good job. So let's start to make our way back up. Good job, everybody. And let's move our props off to the side here. So let's move everything off of the mat. And we're going to just explore here a simple squat. So let's come up onto the balls of the feet and just take the hands to the heels, and let's start to press those heels down. And let's widen the collarbone to the shoulder blade. See if you can connect that collarbone with the shoulder blade. Squeezing the inner shoulder blades together as you press your heels down. Inhale, lifting through the center of the chest, the sternum. Exhale, widening the collarbone, pressing those heels down. I know, squats are tough. So let's take this to the next level. So now that you know about this part, let's support the squat, because you must bring the weight into the heels. So we don't want to just balance on the balls of the feet. So we take the blanket underneath the backs of the heels, and you can see now I can actually bring the weight into my heels. Good. And let's press those heels down. And see if you can, again, widen that collarbone. Good. Widen the collarbone, connect it with the back of that shoulder blade. See if you can squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. So the squat has an element of core. And that's why we're trying to integrate the upper and the lower half. Integrate the upper body with the lower half of the body. See if you can bring the weight a little further into the heels. Good. Pressing those heels down, lifting through the crease of the armpit chest. Good. Very nicely done, guys. All right. Good. So let's start to take this pose into Baddha Konasana, but we're going to do a little different slant on Baddha Konasana today. We're going to take that pose to the wall, and if you want, you can support your heels slightly, and then the work is to get that sacrum pressing into the wall. So the best way to do that is to bend forward and really scooch. That's it. Good. Get your sacrum to the wall and then try and press your heels. That's it. And now the second part is, let's take the shoulder blades and bring the shoulder blades to the wall. And let's take the hands and roll those thighs out. So we're externally rotating the inner thighs out. And at the same time, we're pressing the sacrum into the wall. So we press the sacrum, that bone right at the back, as close to the wall as you can get it. Shoulder blades to the wall, roll those thighs out, and then let's press that sacrum to the wall. So there are two actions happening here. We're rolling the thighs out, using our hands, pressing through the outsides of the feet to drop those knees down. Good. Breathe deeply. Let the breath create that space for you inside the body. Fullness in the breath creates space inside. So let the mind go and see if you can start to let the breath lead the effort. Pressing your shoulder blades to the wall, pressing the sacrum to the wall, rolling those thighs out. Good, good. So let's slowly lift those knees back up, feeling free to linger at home when you're doing this. Feel free to linger as long as you like. And now we're going to come into a bent knee forward bend. So we're simply taking the feet again, hip width apart. The feet are going to be roughly parallel with the outsides of the mat. So the toes turn slightly in. And then let's bend the knees a lot so we can take those ribs right on top of the thighs. See if you can take those ribs as close to the thighs as you can. And then let's wrap the arms around the backs of the legs and scooch those ribs as close as you can to those thighs. Let's start to create that sense of pulling your legs apart, pressing through all four corners of the feet. So we pull those legs apart without actually letting the legs move. Widening through the collarbone, see if you can squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. See if you can bend your knees a little more and bring that weight a little further back into the heels. Pressing through all four corners, squeezing those ribs as close as you can get them to those thighs. Good. So our next step would be to come into Uttanasana. So we would straighten the legs a lot and then stack the hips above the knees. So we need to bring the weight forward. So we are stacking the joints so that we are avoiding hanging out in our ligaments. The best way to do that, everybody, is to take your blocks, and we're going to take Uttanasana against the wall so that we can make sure that everybody's got their joints properly stacked. So taking your heels right to the wall, turn those toes slightly in so that we have an internal rotation right at the head of the femur bone. And then let's press the backs of those thighs to the wall. So the heels are pressing right against the wall. We're pressing those thighs to the wall, and we're starting to walk our sits bones up the wall in micro movements. So let your breath lead the effort. Uttanasana is about the upper body surrendering namaha over the lower half. So if you can take your hands to the floor, do so. And then start to press those thighs to the wall. Feel your sits bones start to lift up the wall. Breathe deeply. Start to let the mind completely fall away now. Start to let your head surrender. And we're working the lower half 100% as the upper body completely lets go, so that this hinge happens in the crease of the hip instead of the upper spine. In order to integrate the upper and the lower half of the body, we want that collarbone wide, and you're starting to squeeze your inner shoulder blades together as you fold forward. And this facilitates a much deeper hinge from the hip, again, working away from the upper spine to fold forward. Nicely done, everybody. Let's slowly start to come back up. Good. That's intense, isn't it? Good job, guys, good job. So let's come down now. We're going to continue this same sensation. We're going to use 1 or 2 bolsters. Jen, can you throw me a green bolster over here, please? And then let's take a strap around the outsides of the feet. So our feet are going to be in a small V position. So we're starting in Upavista Konasana. And we're taking the strap around the outsides of the feet so that we can make that strap taunt. The next prop is to place the bolster on top of the thighs, and then let's roll our sits bones slightly in. So I'm just moving the fleshy part of the buttocks out so that I roll on the insides of the sits bones. And then just press out through your heels. Let's start to press the bolster down into the thighs. So this action starts to ground the femur bone. It starts to wrap those thighs tight around the bone. And then see if you can reach through your heels. I know. And then press those back thighs to the floor. Maybe start to spread your toes wide. And then let's integrate the upper body. See if you can widen your collarbones. Connect that outer collarbone with the shoulder blade. And then squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. So we start to facilitate laying those shoulder blades flat to the spine. Yeah. This is a work in progress. Just think of it as that. Just a work in progress. Atta girl. I'm just starting this work after 30 years. And I started to realize that I really work the upper and the lower body independently. And then this moment of union, that yoking of all things started to come together as a light bulb moment. And it is through that collarbone area because we are very typically folding forward. And what happens is the shoulder blade starts to move away from the shoulder girdle instead of together. So that's what we want to facilitate here. And in the lower half of the body, we're working those hips. Harder than it looks, I know. All right, let's take a break here. Very nicely done. Let's move the strap off to the side. Good. And, well, we might need that strap. That's just bring the legs forward. Yeah, that's good. So just bring your legs into Dandasana. And again, just make sure that the fleshy part is outside. So we are going to fold forward into a simple forward bend, Paschimottanasana. Some people cannot grab their feet. If that's the case for you, just grab a strap, but the arms are straight, and again, we're widening that collarbone, squeezing the inner shoulder blades together, and as we lift the sternum up, the lower ribs are drawing towards the hips. So let's just take a little moment out here. That's inhale, and as you look forward, feel how the shoulders drop. And then we exhale and press the backs of those thighs down into the floor as you release your forehead down towards your shin. So just lingering here for a few moments, see if you can continue that effort of widening the collarbone, connecting that collarbone with the back of the shoulder blade, and then see if you can feel your inner shoulder blades start to squeeze together. So even if you're up here, even if you're here, this is important work. You can still press your thighs down, and that will again help this hinge here instead of this. Good job. So let's start to take that right leg up, and let's open the right leg to the side. So if your knee didn't come to the ground, you could take a block underneath the thigh if you like. But let's take this happy block, and we're going to place it close to the hip on the inner right thigh. Roll that right thigh out. That's it. And as we roll that right thigh out, we can take an opportunity to roll that right shoulder back too. So see if you can pull that right shoulder back with that right thigh. Rolling that right thigh out. And then let's start to take the left arm forward. Good. So rolling your right thigh back, see if you can lift your belly up and over to the inner left thigh. So there's a deep stretch in here in this pelvic floor area. That's what we're looking for. So as you inhale, feel the center of the chest lifting. Feel the breath start to create that space inside the body. Allow some time to let go through your exhale. Start to feel that sense of letting go. Breathing deeply to feel the movement the breath brings to the body. Let's release that right block. Let's take the right hand to meet the left. Good. And then again. So as you inhale, feel the crease of that armpit chest lifting up as you look forward. Feel the shoulders drop. And then exhale, drop your lower ribs a little closer to your hips. Release your forehead down. Just linger here for a moment. Belly over to the inner left thigh. Press that back left thigh to the floor. Pushing out through that left heel. See if you can point that right knee so that right thigh is working to roll out. And we just repeat the effort. Inhale, lift the head, feel the front of the chest reaching forward, shoulders back. Exhale, fold. Let the breath lead the effort. So the mind is falling away now. No thoughts. No opinions, no conclusions. Conclusions create a boundary and boundaries are limiting. So see if you can stay open to the possibilities. Let's slowly lift back up. Good, very nice. Let's take the right outer hand to the left thigh. Widen that right shoulder blade to the collarbone. And let's walk the left hand round over towards that right hip. So we're taking the left hand behind over to the right, widening the collarbone. Let's inhale, lift through the chest, back ribs in and up. Exhale, looking to the left as we walk that left hand just a little further behind, over towards that right hip. Again. Inhale, back ribs in and up. Exhale, continue that sense of lifting through the upper chest as you squeeze your inner shoulder blades together, pressing the back of that left thigh down. Good. Let's look forward, bringing your left hand to meet your right. Let's slowly release. So let's lift the right knee up. And let's change sides. So let's take the left leg in and let's open the left knee out to the side. And let's take the block again onto that inner left thigh. So roll that left thigh out. See if you can take that left shoulder blade back, widening through your collarbone, pressing through the right thigh. Let's start to walk the right hand forward. So this left thigh is rolling back and the belly starts to lift over to the inner right thigh. Pressing down through the back of the right thigh, reaching out through that right heel. So the Achilles is at 90 degrees. The Achilles is flexed. And we just linger here, taking that belly over to the inner right thigh, starting to feel that stretch inside the pelvic floor. And then let's release the block. Let's take the left hand to meet the right. And as you inhale, lift the crease of the armpit chest as you look forward. Exhale, drop those lower ribs to the hips, pressing through the back of the right thigh as you release your forehead down to the shin. Lingering here for a few breaths. So the inner right thigh is pressing down. The back of that right thigh is pressing into the earth and the outer right hip is pressing down. And as we work the pose, we let the breath lead the effort. So we inhale, feeling the crease of the armpit chest lifting forward as we look up. Exhale, fold, releasing those lower ribs a little closer to the hips. Again, just allowing yourself to linger. And then let's slowly start to make our way up. Good. Feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's take the left hand, the outer hand to the outer right thigh. Widen that collarbone, so try and squeeze your shoulder blades together, walking your right hand back. Let's inhale as we lift the back ribs in and up. Exhale as we gaze to the right. So as you gaze to the right, the body, the sternum follows that gaze. Walking the right hand a little further over towards the left. Let's let the breath lead just a few more moments. So use that inhale to lift the back ribs into the body and then up. Widening the collarbone, squeezing the inner shoulder blades together. So there's a lot of core here, right? Good. Let's look to the front. Right hand to meet the left. Nicely done, guys. And then let's just do a little hula here, just to release the spine. Oh. You got it. You guys are so enthusiastic. Thank you. I love it. I do. All right, so let's lift the left knee up and extend that left leg. We'll go back to the first side. So let's lift that knee up. So Marichyasana, we're on our way to this pose, but just on our way, because this is a bit of an elusive pose for a lot of us. So I'm just bringing my weight into the left hand. Take your right foot just about a handprint apart, because we want to be able to scooch inside. And then let's just start by lengthening the spine, lifting the right arm up. That girl. Pressing through that right foot. Press, press, press through the right foot. Lifting the armpit chest. So this underarm area is always lifting and the skin of the shoulder is dropping down the back. And then let's hinge forward, but just keep an eye on those collarbones. See if you can widen the collarbone. Squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. Because in the squat, we need the core. We need the core in order to have the heels on the ground. So this is a good opportunity to integrate this upper body with the lower half. Atta girl. Push through. Yes, so this is a lot of work, isn't it? Yeah, widen those collarbones. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, and it helps to get a little deeper into the hips. Breathe deeply here. Very nice. And then let's slowly release. Let's take the foot from the ankle. So we don't actually take the hand onto the foot. Just anywhere above the ankle is fine. And just shift that hip, give it a little shake. And let's take the heel right in here. So see if you can get your right heel just inside this left hip, because it will create a bit of a detox for the organs. It becomes a nice internal movement. And then let's start to fold forward if we can, pressing the back of the left thigh down as we come into the pose. Ardha Baddha Padma Paschimottanasana. Press the back of the left thigh to the floor, spread your toes wide. See if you can widen your collarbone. So there's always a bind that goes with these, but we're just starting out here. Good. And then let's slowly start to come back up. Good job. Now see if you can bend this left leg and take this left heel underneath this right leg. So we're just on our way here. So we are in Ardha Padmasana. And then let's fold forward. Good. See if you can widen your collarbone, press your sits bones to the floor, lift the belly, lift the crease of the armpit chest. Exhale and just fold forward here. Start to surrender to that exhale. Just feel the deep stretch. Fullness in the breath. So breathe right to your fingers, breathe right to your toes. And then of course there's always someplace else to go. So if you wanted to go for the full Monty, Padmasana, lotus pose, you can just give it a shot, even if it's only for a few moments, and then just take that time to widen your collarbone. Good job, you guys. So as I said, it's not a long time, just a good time that we're here, yeah. I know. Okay, let's come out. Woo-wee. And let's straighten the legs back to Dandasana. Just shake your legs, I know. Number one, we never want to compromise the knees in order to open the hips, because if the hips and the knees go head to head, what's going to win? The bigger group, right? So the hips will always win. That's why people typically, when they start to feel that stretch in the knees, you need to say no more. Okay, so let's go to the other side. Let's bend the left leg. Let's take that hand print, just roughly a hand printed part, so that we can scooch over, and you can see I'm bending on that right hand. And then let's reach the left arm up. Press through this left foot. Find the length, widen your collarbone. Breathe deeply. Fullness in the breath. And then let's hinge from the hips. So we want to avoid this and start to work as though we couldn't fold from our upper spine. Yeah, it's not so easy. That's it. And then we widen that collarbone. You can start to see how this actually becomes leverage. Pressing the back of the right thigh, spread the toes. Many things to consider in the pose. Number one, if all else fails, turn to your breath, and don't let your mind give you too much feedback. The mind can often give you feedback that doesn't really support the effort. So at that point, you just say, mind, did I ask for your opinion? That's it. Nicely done, you guys. So feel that core integrating the upper and the lower half. And then let's start to think about taking the left ankle, so we don't grab the foot, and flexing that foot, so we're lengthening through the Achilles, taking that heel, engaging the foot, and then let's start to fold forward here. So each time you work the pose, which means as you inhale and lift the creases of the armpit chest as you look forward, this helps to lift the whole body and lengthen it. And then the hinge comes more from the hip. And it's micro movements, it's a slow drip, and then one day you just find you're there. So the mind is not running the show here. That's why we say, I am not your mind, I am not the body. And we know we are not the body, because when we tell the body what to do, the body does not always follow. Sometimes the body says, it's a no-go zone. All right, good. So always feel free to linger. If there is a moment that you are just loving, linger as long as you like. And then let's start to slowly come back up. Let's bend the right knee. And let's take that right heel towards the left hip. So if for some reason you're feeling excruciating pain in your knees, to open the knee, you can just spread something either so or vertically. So horizontally or vertically behind the knee to help to open that knee, and that often can release the pain that we've got going. And then we're just going to Fold forward here, right? So that's fold forward. Good. Widen your collarbone. Try to continue to integrate both the upper and the lower half. Squeeze your inner shoulder blades together, and so as the sternum lifts, the lower ribs are dropping towards the hips. And then one day, it's just a nice easy fold as we come all the way to the floor. In the meantime, though, we're continually working toward the pose, and each time you cannot, you just return back to the previous movement. So see if you can come into the full lotus pose just for a split second. Yep, just to feel the differences between the two sides. We don't make a judgment on one side or the other. We just acknowledge or observe the two sides, taking that information and contributing it to that journey of awareness. So the more information that we have about ourselves, the better. Yeah. We go to a doctor often, we ask the doctor to solve our life, our body's problems in 30 minutes. And in actual fact, we have so much information about ourselves. We just have to tap into that. Yeah. Okay, very nicely done. So let's start to think about coming out of the pose. And again, let's just come forward here. I think we should take a downward dog. What do you think? Yeah, let's do a downward dog. Okay, so let's take the arms roughly shoulder width apart. If you have ever had a shoulder injury, it helps to take your hands even wider. Spread your hands wide. And then let's take those shoulders down the back. So you can see I'm almost rounding them down and then drawing the outer forearms in. The sits bones are lifting, the sternum reaches forward, and then we just tuck the toes in and under, lifting the hips, coming into downward dog. So make sure you take a moment out and just look at your hands and feet to make sure that everything is in balance. That symmetry is very important, and you get that simply by observing, taking a look at yourself. Turning your toes in, let's lift the kneecaps up. So let's lift the right kneecap up and press the right heel down. Let's lift the left kneecap up and press the left heel down. So see if you can lift your kneecaps and then work a little higher up the thigh and start to lift the thighs up as well. So the kneecaps and the thighs lift. Pressing through the balls of the feet, we take the heels down towards the floor. And then let's integrate the lower half with the upper body here. So as the hands are wide, the shoulders draw down the back. So we need to widen the collarbone. Feel your inner shoulder blades drawing together, and then it's much easier to start to rotate the crease of the inner elbow up. So that externally rotates those shoulders and takes them down the back of the body. Good job, everybody. So eventually the head will come to the ground in downward dog, but not today. Let's walk the hands in towards the feet, and we're going to start to come up. So let's take 4 blocks here, and we're going to step off of our mat because we're going to do a little bit of a balance sequence as well as continue that opening of the hips and hamstrings. So we take a block, 4 blocks, and stack it and turn it slightly out at 45 degrees. Then we are going to place the right foot on the blocks, and this right heel will cut this left big toe on the same axis. So you want everything nice and symmetric. You don't want your knee turning out in some convoluted way. Stacking the joints, and then let's fold forward here over the standing leg. So again, we don't want to hang back in the ligaments. We don't want the hip behind the ankle. We are starting to strengthen the standing leg. So we want all of the weight evenly between the 4 corners of the feet, and then we fold forward over that left leg. So moving away from the right leg and starting to work that standing leg. The left kneecap should be lifting. And we're just breathing deeply here. Fullness in the breath. Let your mind go. Let the breath do the work. The mind is still here. Breathe deeply. Feel the breath come into that lower belly area, and those muscles slightly inside the hips gently draw in to send that exhale out through the sits bones. So we start to work that standing leg a lot. This left sits bone is tucking in and under, so we don't want to have the left hip sticking out and the right knee rolling in. Everything is nicely stacked. And this promotes youth in the body. So the more we stay away from the ligaments and joints, the more we adhere the muscle to the bone, and that is basically youth in the body. It supports the skeleton system. Those strong muscles will stop atrophy and age. So let's slowly start to come up. Nicely done. And let's come into Vrikshasana. So to do that, it's really better to bring both feet to the floor. And then let's bring all of the weight into the right foot, and let's bring the left foot to the inner right thigh. So let's start to press that outer left foot into the inner right thigh. And as this inner left thigh rolls out, this left hip drops down and lines up with the right, and then we tuck the pelvis in and under. It's a tough one, I know, don't worry, yep. And then let's reach the arms up, pressing through that outer left foot. Atta girl. See if you can take your gaze to a place that is not moving. That's your dristi, and just focus like mad on that space that's not moving, that spot that is still. Very nicely done. So here comes the tough part. We're going to take the hands back to prayer, and we are going to fold forward slowly. So start to hinge from your hips, folding into the half back, the flat back. Let's inhale here, back ribs in and up. Exhale, follow through your exhale. Again, inhale, back ribs in and up. Feel the side armpit chest lifting. Feel the center of the chest reaching forward. Following through your exhale if you can. And then without falling, let's slowly start to come up. And we start to feel the stillness in the mind. So that focus is what takes away all that agitation. Let's take the knee forward. Good job. And let's do the other side. Good. Very nice. So the more coffee you have, the later in the day, the more difficult it is to balance, because it's really about the mind, right? So let's take that left foot at 45 degrees, lining that left heel with the tip of that right big toe. And you can see I've stepped the right leg away. I don't want to be so close that I'm bending the knee and it's passing the ankle and so on. So we look for symmetry. I say look for beauty in your pose. So if something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. And that right hip is stacking. Let's fold forward here. So we want to stay away from this left leg and start to work the standing leg. The right sits bone is scooping in and under. All the joints are nicely stacked. And then we just linger here, folding further and further forward, working that standing leg from the toes through the foot and ankle and shin, strengthening the muscle structure that supports the body. Breathe deeply, everybody. Full body breath. See if you can take that weight a little bit further forward. So we're staying out of the ligaments in the back of that right knee. And feel that right kneecap lifting ever so slightly if you can. Those muscles trained will support the knee and keep that knee safe. And then let's slowly start to come back up. And then let's just take both feet to the floor here before we do the balance. Let's take the right foot to the inner left thigh. And press that outer right foot into the inner left thigh. And you can always take the wall. But this is something to start to focus on. Find that spot in the room that's not moving. Find that drishti, because that laser focus will start to create that stillness in the mind. So we drop that right hip so it meets the left, so it's on the same axis. We tuck the sits bones in and under, tucking the pelvis in and under, and then reaching the arms up. Good. Let's lift the belly. Point that right knee. So we're lengthening from this right hip along the top of the thigh, out through the kneecap. And this right hip is slowly making its way down to meet the left. And then let's take the hands together and let's start to fold forward. So this is a little bit more challenging than it looks. So take your time, that's the ticket. Take your time. Let that focus lead the effort. Let your breath be at the forefront of all your efforts here. Inhale, lift the back ribs in and up. Exhale, follow all the way through that breath. So make the exhale just as long as the inhale. Widening your collarbone, feel your inner shoulder blades draw together as you lift the back ribs in and up through that inhale. And we always continue that lifting through the exhale. We just allow the breath to come into the lower belly area without collapsing the upper chest. Let's slowly start to come back up. Good. And let's bring the knee forward. Good job. Okay, we just have one final sequence. Let's take the bolster and we're just going to place it about the length of my legs away from the wall, and then a blanket. I'm just going to fold this blanket and just take it behind. Good. Let's come and sit. So you can roughly measure the length of your legs by just pressing your heels. There we go. And then let's come down onto the bolster, taking our heels to the wall, and let's tuck those shoulder blades in and under and just slightly adjust. And let's press the heels to the wall, take the backs of the thighs down, and tuck the pelvis in and under. So feel that scooping action. Working from the center of the buttocks. Let's tuck, 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 tuck. So this is like a little mini Viparita Dandasana. Good. Let's take the right thigh into the chest. Let's take the hands around the back of the right thigh and draw that right thigh into the chest, widening your collarbone area, squeezing your inner shoulder blades together so that upper thoracic is lifting. And as you press the left heel to the wall, tuck the right sits bone in and under. So these two actions happen simultaneously. Pressing through the left heel and tucking the right side of the pelvis. Tucking this right sits bone in and under. See if you can feel that effort of those two things happening together. That union, that's your yoga. That moment when it all comes together. Good. And see if you can take your right hand now to your outer right foot. If you can take it inside, feel free. Otherwise, just take it to the outer right foot. And bring your left foot to the floor. That will make this a lot more accessible. And then let's start to draw that right shoulder blade down as we draw the back of that right thigh and knee to the floor. So we inhale, lift the upper chest. Exhale, draw that right shoulder blade down to the floor. Good. So the right side of the body is working together. And then if you'd like to challenge yourself, feel free to extend the left leg, pressing the left heel to the wall, or doing your best. This right foot is stacking above the knee, so do your best to keep that right foot right on top of the knee. The right foot is flat to the ceiling, as though we were pressing that right foot up without letting that thigh leave the ground. So we're working here. Dropping that right shoulder blade, dropping that right thigh, and at the same time pressing out through that left heel. Good. So one more time, let's take this right heel to the left hip. And just grab that ankle as you release your right knee down. Good. Breathing deeply here. Very nicely done. So one more time, we're in this lovely pose. We can add another element here. If you wanted to go just a little further here, you could bend your left knee and take your left foot over your right shin, coming into the full lotus, full Padmasana, and then starting to take the legs down. And just getting a nice opening through this pelvic floor area. So this area here has 3 layers in both genders. The pelvic floor has 3 layers. Both genders are suffering from this being the #1 disease center in North America. So the pelvic floor, this area for both men and women, is the #1 problem area. Number 2 is the upper chest, and the two are directly connected. So if this area is collapsed, this area will also pay. So we're spending a lot of time in supported back bends, opening the pelvic floor. So not a long time, just a good time, right? So let's slowly start to lift the legs up. And let's release the pose. Just take your feet to the floor here for a moment. And then let's take both legs to the wall again, just to make sure that you're nicely situated. And then pressing through that right heel, tucking both of your sits bones in and under. So work from the center of your buttocks. So there's a sense of both sides of the pelvis working together as one unit. Let's draw the left knee into the chest. Just take your hands around the back of the left thigh. And then press your right heel to the wall. So as you press your right heel to the wall, at the same time, tuck the left side of the pelvis, the left sits bone in and under. And it is that symmetry, that union of those two actions that really becomes your yoga practice. We are present, completely present when that takes place. Breathe deeply here. Fullness in the breath. Create space inside the body. It's an effortless action inside. All we need to do is focus on the breath. So if you can manage it, let's take the right foot to the floor, and let's take the left hand to the outer left foot. Again, if you can come inside, feel free. Otherwise, just taking the outer left foot. And then let's draw that left shoulder blade down. So the collarbone is wide in consideration of the upper body, working with this lower half. The inner shoulder blades squeeze together in the back of the body as we start to draw that left thigh down, that left shoulder blade down, and that foot is stacking above the knee. The foot is flexed and flat to the ceiling. And then if you'd like to challenge yourself, extend the right leg long again. So you can see I have a ways to go, but at least I'm starting to get the two sides working together, even though they're doing separate movements, but they are still working in consideration of the other with one purpose in mind. So draw that left shoulder blade down, do your best. Squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. Good. And then let's take that left heel from the ankle and bring that left heel to the right hip. And let's extend the right leg. So you can do this standing, but this is just an entry-level way of starting to access the pose. Breathe deeply, full body rest. So the benefit of having this heel on this right thigh, this very tight area, if you can't get the heel right up into the groin area, is that it helps to, again, take that thigh and tighten it around the bone. It starts to adhere the muscle closer to the bone, and we get a deeper opening in the hip flexor. Whew. So the last stage is to try and come into the full lotus pose. So we start to bend that right knee and take that right foot over the left shin. So one side is going to be much more accessible than the other. Just acknowledge the two sides as being different. No judgment needs to be passed. It's just an observation. And then we open the pelvis. Let the breath lead the way, and we start to feel this deep sense of opening and freedom in the pelvis. Breathe deeply here. And then let's slowly start to lift the legs back up. And as you take your legs out, let's take our hands now and reach both outer feet, coming into the happy baby, but the tailbone is supported so that we can start to draw the shoulders and the thighs down. And then we press the tailbone, the sacrum, into the bolster. Breathe, let your mind fall away, let your mind be completely still. Let's all take a few deep breaths here. So as you inhale, one more time, feel the back ribs lifting into the body and then up as you lift through the sternum. And then widen your collarbone, squeeze your inner shoulder blades together. And just take a moment and surrender here. Namaha. Good. And then let's take the feet together and just bring your feet back to the floor, the soles of the feet together, and press through the outer feet just for a moment here. One more time, taking advantage of this elevation in the pelvis to create this deep opening. Lingering here. And then when you're ready, we're going to lift the knees and just push your bolster away, taking the bolster underneath the backs of the thighs, the backs of the legs, and just scooching down, having your blanket underneath the back of your head as we come into our final rest now, Shavasana. So just take a moment and tuck your shoulder blades in and under. And then let the body surrender to the earth. Let your mind be still with the body. So we're in this place of just observation. And if there's one pose that all yoga systems agree on, that is Shavasana, the corpse pose. Shavasana, our resting pose. So if you'd like to linger longer, feel free. Otherwise, let's take the hands to the belly and gently just draw the knees to the chest and take one final rock as you rock from side to side, releasing through your lower back, releasing through your hips. And then let's roll to the right, using your left hand to gently press you up. Let's come and just sit on our bolster here. Very nicely done, everybody. Let's take one last inhale, and as you inhale, reach the arms up and look up from your sits bones. On your exhale, bringing your hands to prayer, just close the eyes. And just take a moment now and thank yourself for this great effort to bringing something new, and more importantly, leaving whatever it is you no longer need here on your mat. Thank you all for allowing me to guide you. Namaste.